What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus package update, stimulus check update, daily news, everything going on here in our country, in Washington, D.C., with the economy, money, investing, the stock market, everything you need to know about on a daily basis. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so you don't miss out on new videos that come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below. We got a lot to talk about. Lawmakers are discussing a new stimulus package, including possible fourth stimulus checks. We're going to be covering that in this video, as well as a new virus variant that combines the Delta variant and the Omicron variant. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to hear from the White House as well. Here we go. Yeah, as you can see here, a researcher in Cyprus has reportedly discovered a variant of the virus that combines the Omicron variant and the Delta variant. Yeah, this could be interesting. They're calling the strain reportedly Deltacron. Deltacron. I don't think that's the official name of it. I think that's the kind of the slang name of it. The researcher named Leonidas Kostrinus, say that 20 times fast, professor of biological sciences at the University of Cyprus, has discovered the strain that combines the Delta and the Omicron variant. Bloomberg News reported on Saturday. The professor calls this strain Deltacron because of its Omicron-like genetic signatures within the Delta genomes, Bloomberg says. So far, the team of researchers have found 25 cases of the virus already, according to the report. They say it's still too early to tell whether there are more cases of the strain or what impact it could have. Quote, "We will see in the future if this strain is more pathological or more contagious, or if it will prevail and potentially become a dominant strain," as they say here, against the two dominant strains, Delta and Omicron. They said in an interview with Sigma TV on Friday. Yeah. In today's episode of You Can't Make This Stuff Up, what next, right? Yeah. Yeah, this comes as the 7-day average here of the U.S. is now over 700,000 cases per day, 714,000. Yesterday's cases came in at 443,000 new people testing positive. If you've been watching the show for a while, you know that weekend cases always come in a little bit lower just because of the way reporting is. There's just not as many places that report on the weekends. I think that's just kind of the way it is. So just kind of the history of over time of reporting the way it is, weekend cases are always a little bit lower. So I don't know if it's just necessarily that there's less cases for yesterday. It's just the way reporting is. So 443,000 cases yesterday, that still actually breaks the old record of 300,000 new cases, believe it or not. But the 7-day average is 714,000 new people per day, new people every single day, just in the U.S. This is just for the United States. I've been having some questions on that. This is just the U.S. That's new people every single day. That's not old people. And this does not include people that are testing with at-home tests, okay? You can see the daily cases here. On January 5th, we had 704,000 new cases. On January 7th, we had 900,000 new cases. If you're paying attention to the numbers, sometimes they fluctuate a little bit. They'll change a little bit day to day as they kind of recalculate the numbers. They might change just a little bit as new data comes in a little bit over time. They may have like a couple hospitals or data from the government reporting a little bit after the fact. So they do change a little bit, but generally they'll be in the same range, kind of, so to speak. But our 7-day average is 714,000 new people testing positive per day. and that does not even include people that take at-home tests. Those don't get reported to anybody. You can see the hotspots here in this map over here in the corner. It's crazy. Anywhere that's a populated area is a huge hotspot. Whether it's a Republican state or a Democratic state, the virus doesn't care. It's crazy. Also, we have a huge fight going on here over vaccine mandates. Big fight over the National Guard is going on right now, as well as in the Supreme Court. The Pentagon won its first battle over its vaccine mandate for the National Guard. But a broader fight over the mandates is raging as multiple states are seeking to exert their authority over the National Guard, these mandates. A federal judge in late December rejected a bid for Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, who's a Republican, to primarily block the mandate. However, the state still has options, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who's also a Republican, is waging his own legal battle over the mandate a week after Oklahoma's loss as well. States and federal government have dual control over the National Guard. While governors typically call out the Guard to help with emergencies and national disasters, the federal government can also activate them, though such circumstances are rare. The dispute over the Pentagon's mandate revolves around the question of authority over the National Guard, with courts now dragged into the middle of the fight. As it plays out, Army Guard members have until late June to comply with the mandate or face consequences and potentially be discharged. We have seen that in other branches of the military. Some members have been discharged at this point. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is set to give its ruling here sometime soon. You can see here Supreme Court justices cast doubt on the Biden workplace vaccine rule, which could affect over 100 million workers, 100 million people here in the US. Justice Roberts says that the virus is a job for the states, which means that if that's the case, that the Supreme Court could strike down the mandate, and it's for Congress to address. And again, Congress could rule any which way. Two state lawyers had to argue remotely because they tested positive for the virus. And you can't make this stuff up, right? Literally, while they're trying to get into court, they test positive and can't get into court. One of the justices chose to not go to court and to go to court remotely because they didn't even want to go to court because of how bad the virus is. Yeah, it's crazy out there right now. But this is going to be a major thing for our country. It's probably the biggest ruling that we've had regarding the pandemic and the virus ever. This is the big one so far. This is the biggest ruling that we've had in the Supreme Court regarding the pandemic and the virus. This is going to this is the biggest one yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here, and I will keep you up to date. And remember that there are 6 Republican Supreme Court justices and 3 Democrats on the Supreme Court. So it'll be interesting to see if they uphold Biden's mandate. And on stimulus, there's a lot of talk going on right now in the White House, in Congress, over stimulus checks, stimulus packages, new virus relief, new stimulus relief, new pandemic relief, new virus relief, new money for businesses, new money for restaurants, all sorts of things. We have new states talking about this. California is talking about a multi-billion-dollar stimulus package. It's everywhere. It's literally everywhere. You can see this headline here. White House says COVID stimulus talks ongoing. And I mean, it only makes sense. We're averaging 700,000 new positive cases per day on the 7-day average, over that. And yeah, I mean, it's just insane here. how many people are testing positive. And remember that stimulus check 1, 2, and 3, stimulus package 1, 2, and 3. There was actually a lot of, or a couple other stimulus packages in there that were minor stimulus packages that didn't have a stimulus check in there. We don't talk about them as much, but they had money for some small businesses in there, paycheck protection program, money for the virus, money for other things in there as well. That were in there that were kind of stimulus packages as well, minor packages that were passed. But these are all being considered right now in Congress, both Republicans and Democrats as well. So we have, in addition to stimulus checks, stimulus measures, and stimulus packages, we also have the child tax credits as well being considered, and the Build Back Better package. So all that stuff would be in addition to the Build Back Better package. It's not like the Build Back Better package, I would say, is separate. In addition, I would say this is kind of a emergency virus aid, emergency stimulus aid, I would say. It's probably the best way to put it. The Build Back Better package is kind of like a social stimulus package. The way I would say it is a lot of the things that are in the Build Back Better package are kind of things that we've needed for a long time. Lowering the cost of prescription drug pricing, paid family and medical leave. We're the only first world country to not offer that on a national basis, especially now during a pandemic. Why we don't have that, why we're the only first world country to not have that, I don't know. Having additional Medicare benefits for seniors, things that should have been in there for a long, long time. More rental assistance in there. Again, kind of more things in there. We talk about all the different things, lowering the cost of childcare down to 7%. The average family that pays for childcare can pay upwards of 21% on average for their childcare. I mean, think about paying 21% of your income, right? Paying for pre-K, preschool, right? A few states pay for it on their own dime. But now they're considering doing that with the Build Back Better package. And again, when you look at a lot of other first world countries, especially in Europe, there's countries that have been paying for preschool for over 100 years. And here we are in the US, we don't pay for it. And a lot of these states, on average, it costs $8,600 to pay for preschool. And when you look at our education ranking compared to a lot of other countries, when you look at like China's education ranking versus us, we have fallen so far behind. We're like in the there's like over almost, I think it's almost 20 countries that are ahead of us in education now. Ahead. And one of the ways we can do that is by educating our children earlier. The problem is, remember, we just had a report that we read yesterday that said that 25% of all Americans right now are struggling to pay their bills on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis. Well, who's kidding who? If you're struggling to pay your bills on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis, you surely can't afford $8,600 for preschool. And if you kind of think about that, that's about $800 a month, $200 a week, maybe a little bit less than that. Well, yeah, probably about that because you don't really send your kids to preschool in the summer. So it's probably around this, probably about $200 a week for preschool. So that's about right. And yeah, so if you think about that, having that covered like regular school, I mean, you don't pay for regular school. I mean, kind of in some states you do, you pay an extra tax per se, but not really here in my state. It's just kind of, I know some states are kind of weird about it where they make you pay an extra tax per se, but most states don't. I know it's every state's kind of a little bit different, but you know, we're really far behind in a lot of things that have should have been done. A lot of other first world countries kind of put us to shame when it comes to benefits for children, benefits for seniors, benefits for people on fixed income, benefits for people that aren't wealthy. It's kind of, there's kind of a lot of benefits that other first world countries have that we don't have, and we're supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world. You know, I like to think of us as the greatest country in the world, the greatest nation in the world. And honestly, we're one of the best. We're probably the best, right? I mean, I've been to a couple other countries in my lifetime, but when you look at a lot of these programs, we are lacking in some of them for sure, definitely. I mean, when you compare them to a lot of the other countries, there's definitely some programs we are lacking in. When you look at benefits for seniors, when you look at Social Security, a lot of people work their whole lives, and it's just not enough. When you look at people work their whole lives and they're getting $800 a month from Social Security or $1,000 a month from Social Security, but in a lot of places, an apartment is $1,000 a month. How does that make sense? It, it doesn't even equate. It doesn't even add up, right? I mean, the average rent right now is 1,000 to 1,100 bucks a month. The average rent. So if you're making $1,000 a month from Social Security, and I get that Social Security was originally supposed to be like 40 to 50% of your income, but in the real world, it doesn't really work like that for a lot of people, right? So this is why, they're saying a lot needs to change here. That's why we have a lot of calls for Social Security to be increased with this $200 per month Social Security increase, or the Social Security 2100 Act, which would increase Social Security to 125% of the poverty level, which would be $1,341 per month would be the Social Security minimum that everybody would get who qualifies for Social Security and put enough time into Social Security. So that's a really big thing here. And they could do that by applying an additional tax to people that make over $400,000 per year in Social Security and pay their fair share, into Social Security, because people stop paying into Social Security once they make over a certain amount. And it changes a little bit every year. It's like 140 some thousand dollars. It adjusts for inflation and stuff like that. Well, people stop paying into Social Security at that point because that's the maximum they can make in Social Security. But there's ways that they can adjust that and also make Social Security more solvent by doing that. Okay, and then people could pay into Social Security and kind of pay a little bit extra to kind of make it go around, right? And remember that the US also borrowed billions and billions of dollars from Social Security a long time ago and, well, never really gave back to it. They kind of plummeted. What's the word? Plumaged? Pillaged. They pillaged from Social Security, kind of like a pirate. My son, he's got this pirate ship with Captain Hook, and it kind of feels like the government's a little bit like Captain Hook a little bit, and never really gave back to Social Security. And I personally think that if Social Security ever really does run into solvency issues, they always kind of talk about it, but if it ever really happens, what they would really do is just give it a bailout. They would just give it a stimulus package and give it a few $1 trillion. I mean, think about it. They give stimulus dollars for everything. They give stimulus dollars to banks. They give stimulus dollars to anything that needs it. Airlines, restaurants, whatever needs it. The auto industry, GM, Ford, they got billions and billions of dollars. Who's kidding who? If Social Security needs money, they're going to just give it to them. You think Republicans or Democrats are going to say, oh no, we can't give money to Social Security? Yeah, right. Good luck with that, right? They're gonna give them money if they need it, not only because they took money from Social Security and never gave it back, but because they'd have to. They'd absolutely have to. If they give money to everybody else for bailouts or for stimulus or packages or whatever you want to call it, right? Um, that's exactly fully what I expect to, if they even run into solvency issues. There's ways that they could pass packages like the Social Security 2100 Act that has just been recently reintroduced that would not only raise benefits but adjust the trajectory by having the wealthy pay more money into it, and that changes things here, and they adjust they adjust things, okay? I have a video on it that if you haven't watched it yet, you definitely need to watch it. I'll link you to it here at the end of this video. That's really, really good. I personally don't think Social Security is ever going to go away because of this. They can adjust things. They can have people pay into Social Security in different ways, and they can bail it out. They can give more money to Social Security with stimulus packages. I mean, you got to think that we're at $29 trillion in debt. And back in 1990, we were at around 3 trillion. And in all reality, most people aren't paying any more taxes right now. In fact, if we look at this, in 2020, 61% of Americans paid no federal income tax. Now, this is a little bit tricky to understand because a lot of Americans paid federal income taxes, but they got it back as refunds, tax refunds, or as stimulus checks, or as unemployment money, or in vice versa. So a lot of Americans may have paid some federal income tax, but when all was kind of settled, they actually ended up paying zero or negative amount in federal income tax when all was said and done. Because remember, a stimulus check is actually a tax credit, okay? And then there's tax refunds, there's other tax credits as well. So remember, in 2020, you can see here, this headline is from CNBC, 61% of Americans paid no federal income tax. So basically, if you're not in the top 39% of income earners, you probably paid no federal income tax in 2020. The data is not out for 2021 yet because nobody's even done their taxes yet for 2021. But my point here is to say that even though the national debt is at $29 trillion, it really doesn't matter to most people in terms of taxes paid. It may matter in inflation a little bit. I think inflation matters more right now because we're coming out of the pandemic and growth was very, very slow when we went into the pandemic and it slowed down. I mean, think about how low gas prices were when the pandemic stopped everything. And now that we're trying to come out of the pandemic, and this happened in past recessions as well, when you come out of pandemic, and remember, inflation is like this all across the world. So you can kind of look at inflation prices all across the world. Remember, vegetables in China are up by 30%, and there's inflation up all across the world. So it's not just here in the US. And I'm not picking sides or anything like this. But inflation does tend to, when you come out of recessions, and we're trying to come out, the virus is really kind of holding us down here. So it's going to be tough here. It could be a struggle to come out of it because virus cases are at an all-time high. It could be a while here. But when you come out of recessions and the economy goes up, inflation goes up because everything starts to really move, right? And you're coming out of a non-inflationary period when everything was down and prices weren't going up. So everything is compensating for that, if that makes sense. So if anything, taxes are at an all-time low, even though the debt is at an all-time high. So that's why the people that worry about the national debt, for most people, it doesn't really matter in their life. In 1990, the national debt was around $3 trillion, maybe $4 trillion. Now it's at $29 trillion. But for most people, it doesn't. It's a fictional number in the sky. And that number is never going to be paid off. It's never, ever, ever going to be paid off. Here in 2022, it's at $29 trillion. By 2040, it'll probably be $60 trillion. So I wouldn't worry about that. I'd worry more about your personal situation than the government spending money, because whether it's Republicans or Democrats in control, they're going to just keep spending. So hopefully we can just get help for the people, help for us here during a once-in-a-100-year pandemic. And I'll keep you up to date with everything going on here in this situation. So make sure to click the subscribe button down below. I'll keep you up to date with everything here. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's completely free to subscribe. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And this video is a video I just did about a potential $2,000 stimulus check in the new year. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.